It is Sunday, June 14th, and the biggest story for Monday's open is a standoff over an oil deal. Heading into the new week, Sunday, June 14, 2026. Like and subscribe for daily market updates. Today's agenda: Week in Review, Market Snapshot, Central Bank Watch, Iran Deal Standoff, Commodities and Crypto, SpaceX IPO Impact, Closing Summary. Now let's look at the exact numbers for each asset class right now in our Market Snapshot chapter. This week in markets saw a dramatic rollercoaster ride, driven by global politics and corporate news. The S&P 500 gained roughly 1.3% after suffering a violent reversal early on Monday, when the index crashed to a low near 7,230 before recovering thanks to peace deal optimism. By Friday's close, major indexes were back in positive territory, with the Nasdaq Composite at 25,888 and the Dow Jones at 51,202. The Russell 2000 added less than 1% overall. In the crypto world, Bitcoin dipped slightly to trade near $63,900 after a brutal 5-session outflow streak that drained hundreds of millions from spot ETFs on Friday was finally snapped by strong inflows over $85 million. Gold struggled significantly this week, trading down more than 24% from its January highs because investors feared rising interest rates would hurt safe places to store wealth like gold and silver. The central bank policy environment remains tense, with inflation at a 3-year high in energy prices alone driving up the overall cost of living. Now we need to understand exactly what the Federal Reserve is thinking with their upcoming meeting next week. Here is where things stand right now, heading into the new week. The S&P 500 closed Friday standing at 7,431 points. This level tells investors that despite a scary start to the week with panic selling early Monday, confidence has returned because people believe global trade routes might stay open soon. The Nasdaq Composite is sitting at 25,888, which means technology stocks have bounced back after Broadcom disappointed earnings earlier in the week. The Dow Jones Industrial Average closed at 51,202 points, showing that big industrial companies are feeling safer now that peace talks seem to be moving forward. Gold futures are trading around $4,218 per ounce, still far below its peak because high interest rates make holding physical metal less attractive when you could earn more in a savings account instead. Crude oil is hovering near $84 or $85 a barrel. This price suggests the market already expects supply to return soon if that Strait of Hormuz opens up again. With interest rates set, let's look at the biggest global political story that is moving every asset class you own right now. The Federal Reserve's current target rate sits at 3.50 to 3.75%. The Fed meets Tuesday through Wednesday, June 16 and 17, in what will be Kevin Warsh's first policy press conference as chair since he took over the job recently. Markets are pricing a very high probability of no change happening right now at this meeting, instead of raising or cutting rates immediately. Here's what we know about inflation. May inflation data came in at 4.2% year over year, which is the hottest reading seen since April 2023, mostly because energy prices jumped 23.5% in just 1 year alone. Gasoline specifically has gone up 40.5% versus last year on its own. Core inflation data rose only slightly less than expected thanks to shelter costs slowing down recently rather than food or other goods driving the price increase this time around. Now let's see how these geopolitical tensions are specifically affecting the price of gold, silver, oil, and Bitcoin right now. The dominant risk all year has been this conflict involving Iran and how it affects oil shipping through a critical choke point. The United States says the deal gets signed today, meaning Sunday, June 14th, according to President Trump, who posted about it on social media platforms earlier in the day, saying everything is scheduled for tomorrow, which means now. But Tehran flatly denies any signing will happen, claiming hesitation from American negotiators, and describing these claims as a negotiating test by Iran itself rather than genuine progress toward peace agreements that would reopen shipping lanes immediately. If Washington accepts Iranian demands without getting nuclear commitments first, Israel might object strongly, since they feel their security interests are endangered if the deal focuses only on ending war temporarily while ignoring enrichment issues entirely. Finally, let's look at the massive corporate news that just changed how we think about space exploration and stock market valuations. Gold is trading around $4,218 per ounce as of Friday close. This significant decline comes from straightforward logic. Higher interest rates make holding physical metal less attractive because you miss out on the yield you could earn elsewhere in bonds or savings accounts instead. Silver sits near $65 with a gold-silver ratio at 64, which is historically elevated, meaning silver has cheapened relative to its precious cousin more than any point this cycle so far. Crude oil is around $84 to $85 per barrel, having already anticipated that peace might return soon by dropping from above $112 in April down toward mid-80s levels now. Bitcoin dropped roughly 20% from pre-conflict highs, but shows signs of stabilization after a brutal 5-session decline, where money flowed out massively before snapping back with inflows over $85 million on Friday alone. Now let's wrap up with a summary of what matters most for your portfolio as you prepare to open positions Monday morning. SpaceX debuted on the Nasdaq under ticker SBCX on Friday, June 12th, raising $75 billion at a $135 IPO price, which stands as the largest initial public offering in history, by a wide margin beating previous records set decades ago. Shares opened higher than expected, hitting an intraday high of 176.52 before closing at 160.95 for a gain of 19% on day one alone, giving SpaceX a market cap of $21 trillion, making it the 7th largest publicly traded company in the world right now after just its first day trading. This reaction tells us clearly that institutional appetite for Elon Musk's ecosystem, including Starlink internet services and XAI artificial intelligence projects, is enormous even when macro conditions are tough globally, because investors believe this specific business model will keep growing fast regardless of what happens elsewhere. Finally, let's turn to closing summary. The market mood is cautiously hopeful but tightly wound, because every asset price right now depends on whether an official signature appears on the Iran memorandum today or not tomorrow morning. After all this weekend speculation builds up pressure again globally across borders separating nations who disagree fundamentally about nuclear weapons programs currently being discussed openly online everywhere, including social media feeds worldwide. The biggest risk to current trends involves hardening contradictions between Tehran and Washington, leading to collapse of negotiations entirely, which would send oil prices spiking back toward $100 again, while forcing investors to reprice expectations for higher interest rates later this year, under pressure from Chair Warsh's upcoming press conference next week. The market mood is cautiously hopeful but tightly wound, because every asset price right now depends on whether an official signature appears on the Iran memorandum today or not tomorrow morning. After all this weekend speculation builds up pressure again globally across borders separating nations who disagree fundamentally about nuclear weapons programs currently being discussed openly online everywhere, including social media feeds worldwide. The single biggest risk to current trends involves hardening contradictions between Tehran and Washington, leading to collapse of negotiations entirely, which would send oil prices spiking back toward $100 again, while forcing investors to reprice expectations for higher interest rates later this year, under pressure from Chair Warsh's upcoming press conference next week. Thanks for watching Market Pulse Daily.